And what's up? Welcome back to the CEO Pulse podcast, where you get the real, the raw, and the mind of entrepreneurship. We are here with another amazing episode of the CEO Pulse podcast and the Mindset Monday series with my co-host, Justin Thorstad.
I like it. There you go. I was wondering when this was going to come out.
I forgot the rest of the song, but
it's good.
I mean,
now.
that was pretty good, right?
They get the
Eye of
point.
the Tiger?
Yeah.
You feel that savage to me this morning, man. Your ideas are fire.
Thank you.
We were talking about just before we hit record and I started doing all this crazy stuff on the mic. We were talking about the fact that we always look out or inwards, right? On the podcast, we're usually trying to bring awareness into the self and holding ourselves accountable for things, right? And more than anything else, I guess, bringing light on into all that stuff. But there's a topic that's, it's very, very relevant right now. A lot of people can be afraid of it. A lot of people can be excited about it. I'm somewhat in the middle, but it's AI, right? How is AI advancing entrepreneur success, right? And more importantly, I think, is how are we feeling towards, artificial intelligence and everything that's happening? I mean, this thing is unraveling before our eyes in an incredibly fast pace. And the comment you made earlier was, it's growing faster than our consciousness.
Yeah, that's
right?
the problem. Yeah.
I mean, it was a baby in March. Like back in March, this thing was it unraveled really in a matter of 4 weeks or so, where it got really, really popular. It got mainstream, and now you have app after app after app. It's hard to keep up with everything that's being bolted on to AI, right? And it's got a ton of benefits when it comes to entrepreneurship and business. But I also think there's a lot of apprehension towards it.
Sure.
Right.
Well, there's really like two camps to this, and that's why we were kind of talking that we're somewhere in the middle, because on one hand it's like, okay, is this good for humanity because of the potential downside or detriment to the rest of the population if somebody uses it for evil, right? And then if we look at just in the entrepreneur space, like what are the capabilities and how great is that? So it's like it comes down to the intent of I think the masses and certain powers to be, so to speak, on what they're going to do with it. That's scary. But in this moment right now, you can't deny the application and usage of it in business, because it's like online shopping when that first became a thing. I don't know what company started, selling online, but when the internet came out, there were some people that thought, it's a fad, it's going to go away, right? And now look, look at Amazon. Look at the massive market that's been created for online shopping because the internet.
The market created, but also the companies that were that were titans in their spaces that just kind of imploded, right? Look at Toys R Us. Look at that's one of them.
Blockbuster. We got Netflix. You know what I mean? And I still remember a Blockbuster I used to drive by. And our kids don't understand what it means to have to rewind a VHS tape before you return it. Yeah. So, but it's about the Gio's laughing. Are you old enough, Gio?
He's probably asking the same thing. A VH what?
What VH?
Isn't there pills for that?
It's a movie cassette.
Movie cassette. Wow, that's old.
Right?
Yeah.
So, but it is about the people that are looking for an edge, and they're the early adopters of new technology that comes out. You're either going to ride that wave, or you're going to be paddling trying to catch up to it, and it'll be too late.
Yeah. Well, I think as entrepreneurs, the nature is to try to be ahead of the curve, right? It's the normal. It's almost like the default thinking. Okay, cool. How can I kind of stay on top of that wave at the front end where all the momentum is at, where the real action is. The thing about this particular topic, which is artificial intelligence, is that it's so, it's not even, I think it goes far beyond being a game changer. We say game changers, right? Interest rates can be game changers in a pivot, in a pivot and a strategy, right? But I think this thing goes, far beyond that. It's almost,
we can't comprehend how far
it takes me back to the printing press. If you research history in the past, you probably seen or read about how the printing press just kind of changed everything, right? Okay, like knowledge became something that people could go out and then buy a book or see, and it just made everything more readily available.
Information could spread faster.
Exactly. So I mean, that was back then. Before then, everything had to be actually, books had to be handwritten, so you couldn't do a lot of them. You couldn't write a lot of them. I mean, it was limited, right?
Yeah.
But then it got opened up. And then, the internet had this, big, massive impact. Honestly, I think this is going to be bigger than, and I don't know, this may be an unpopular opinion, but I don't care. I really do think this is going to be bigger because it's riding on the back of the internet, right? And now you're taking the critical thinking factor out of the equation. I mean, the ripple effects of just rolling AI out there. I mean, it hasn't even been a year yet, right? And we're seeing everything that's going on with it.
Oh yeah, I mean, even in the real estate space, what I
Yeah.
mean? There's all kinds of warnings and so forth about copyright and all of that. And it's like, look, first and foremost, whatever your stance is on AI, all we're talking about is really, since it is here, what are you going to do with it?
Yeah.
How are you going to apply it and use it to elevate, scale your business, your message, your voice, and use it to your advantage while it's here, because it is. And so to ignore truth is the definition of ignorance. It's like you don't have to adopt it. We're not saying that. We're just saying that your competition is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that's all.
So no, but I think, I mean, just having the fact, right, that, for example, right now you can't even trust a video, right? If I were to see you in video, I would have to question, is that really Justin on the video, or is that, just AI being, doing its thing?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've seen, the like some of the, they call them, what do they call them? Deep fakes. Like deep fake videos.
I haven't seen.
Okay, cool.
I've
I mean, so they've done, a few, Tom Cruise is supposed to be talking and saying something, but it's not really Tom Cruise, some dude that's just kind of replacing the face, but everything's on there. Anyways, like, it's very advanced type of shit, right? So what I'm saying is that this opens up a lot of opportunities, right? To work easier, I think. I don't want to, make this whole thing, put a whole, an evil connotation on AI. I think it's really in the eyes of the beholder and the power, that can be, drawn from it, right? But I also think that critical thinking is going to be even more important than before.
100%.
I mean, we see it, like, critical thinking is, it's almost a luxury, to some degree, right? There's a lot of things that especially with the younger generations and whatnot. I mean, there's so much that's readily available on the internet. You don't really have to question too many things. All you go is and ask. Even if it's something that you would have to give it, 15 seconds of thought, just easy to go, ask Siri about it, right?
Yeah.
But now with this, I mean, I think the capability of getting wrong information is going to be huge. Making it work to your advantage in the way that, for example, now if you ask, AI a question, go to ChatGPT. If you ask a question, you have to articulate it the right way, because the quality of the question that you put into it is going to be the quality of the
100%.
Response that you get out, right?
Yep.
So it's going to be one of those things, man, that it really divides the doers from the passive people out there. I think those who choose to go into it and get educated in it and fine tune that skill set are going to do a lot better, exponentially, not just a lot better.
Well, I mean, look, whether people think it's AI is evil or it's good, like, that all comes down to your own projection, right?
Yeah.
Like, people say money's the root of all evil. No, it's not. I know a lot of great people that have wonderful hearts and excellent intentions, and they use the money they earn and create for good. So that's not true. So AI is not evil or good. It depends upon you, the one using it, and what are you using it for.
Yeah.
And so, but what you said about, like, I mean, if you look at it now, like, whenever I have a technology problem with my phone, my internet, my TV, whatever, like, my kids are the ones that fix it. Like, they just understand that stuff so much better than I do, right? Kids from the 80s. And, I'm a little technology adverse at times because it's just something new and whatever. But the thing about it is, you nailed it. Like, the quality of content you get from that AI comes down to the quality of the question you ask, right? Okay, so let's think about that for a minute. The quality of the question, where does that come from? It's not going to be from AI. that comes from experience, knowledge, expertise,
Yeah.
and just intuition.
Intuition.
Do you know what I mean? And the other thing too is like, okay, so let's say AI continues to grow and it's going to far outpace our growth as far as self-awareness, consciousness, who we are, what we're about, and all of that. Think about a generation from now that's born with AI as just something that's normal. Like without that experience, without that expertise, without that intuition of like that you only gain by doing a thing, like without bringing that to the equation, what are you left with? And it's really just regurgitated information that's already available, right? Now, that being said, like, listen, I put in a couple questions just to kind of test drive this thing out, and I was blown away. And I mean, the content itself was kind of surfacey and basic, but what it did do really well for me, like the application, was it gave talking points and like highlights that would have taken me some time to really think about. And boom, there it is. Yeah. Now, the quality of depth and the articulation, I mean, listen, mine was much deeper and much more impactful in comparison. Maybe it was the question I asked, but at least it gave me the talking points to go off of and saved me a tremendous amount of time.
Yeah.
Like I was sharing with you earlier too, a couple of years ago when I started my seminar company, I hired this marketing person to sit down and create my brand guide. And like that took a couple hours and a few $1,000s, like $3,500. And this was a couple of years ago. Well, I did the same thing for a different venture. It popped it into AI, asked it some questions. It came back, asked me some questions. And I wrote out really articulate answers to each one of his questions, like a solid paragraph or more, right? And this thing spits out the colors I should use, the font style, my messaging, like all kinds of like in-depth stuff. And I tried it for my seminar company, and it told me the same fonts and the same colors that the other lady used over 2 years ago, probably 2.5 years ago.
Yeah.
The AI wasn't around for her to use. And I thought, wow, that's pretty wild. So again, like you can use it for good and just save you time, but for the love of God, please don't copy and paste that stuff. And no.
I mean, now they have AI that can pick up on that.
Right? Copyright stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
See what I did?
And maybe it'll be a good application for school and teachers can use it to, scan and see if people are, plagiarizing.
Yeah, I showed ChatGPT, and this is, I don't know, like a month after it came out, I showed it to my son. Like, hey bro, do you wanna crush every single paper in high school? This is bad parenting advice.
Yeah, don't do that.
And then I gave him the tool, and then I told him, but you have to be morally correct. So don't do that stuff. Use it to brainstorm.
Well, that's the other thing. Like AI doesn't have morals, values.
Yeah. It's a black. I mean, it's a black and white world, right? Like there's no the gray area. The humanness is not there. I mean, honestly, at the rate it's growing, I don't know if there's going to be some algorithm that kind of, factors in, core values and moral standards. But
yeah, but I don't know how you program.
I like to think it won't.
That thing that we have as humans, not just a, prefrontal cortex and cognitive thought, but energy that moves around in us, we call emotions. Like, how do you really program that? And I'm not saying it can't be done, but I think we're a little ways away from that. But at this pace of growth, man, anything's possible.
Probably not till like next January.
Next January.
But now, in all seriousness,
2024.
Yeah, exactly. In all seriousness, though, I mean, I think this is now it's just another reality of life, right? Like we can't ignore it, we can't push it out. Like we have to realize that we're not, we're no longer the whole being a dinosaur of society. It doesn't work. I mean, we've seen it over and over again. People didn't adopt the internet. I mean, you saw it.
Yeah, you got killed.
There's certain things in the evolution of society that make benchmarks, right? This is absolutely one of them. It goes far beyond being a game changer. Why? Because this thing is growing and compounding on its own. We have to figure out how to live with it, how to adapt. Yeah. It's not putting it out. I mean, the cat's out of the bag.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and you nailed it. I was going to bring it up, and we must be in sync today. It's the evolution, right? Yeah. Like as living organisms, the organism has to evolve to its environment or it'll die, right? Yeah. Same thing in business. Like you got to evolve, meaning change and adapt to the technology and see, okay, instead of me bringing emotions into this of like it's good, bad, right, or wrong, you got to just accept the fact that it is. And so how can I adopt this? how can I use this to my benefit,
Yeah.
so long as legal, moral, ethical, and use it to save time, to have a checks and balances. Like there's all kinds of applications for it. And so, I guess what I'm saying is if people are resistant to it, like it's some kind of evil thing, okay, cool. You can identify with that. And I'm not saying that's wrong, but it's not going to work for you.
Yeah.
Like in business, you won't be successful if everyone else is advancing at a much faster pace. You're being left behind.
I have, and that's 100% true. I had a podcast on a couple of days ago with a really good friend of mine, Batch. He's Jesse Burrell. He owns. He's the CEO for Batch Services. It's a data company. They've been growing like wildfire over the last 3 years, and they're really good about staying on top of that innovation. Edge, right? Like looking for things to get better and improve. And I mean, it's incredible what they've done in a matter of 4 years, 5 years. And grown exponentially over the last 3. They have an entire division dedicated, and this is a company that grew to, and right now they're at 250 employees, and they became kind of like a standard in the industry for data. They're really good. But they have an entire division dedicated for AI or to AI, not because they know how it's going to work with their business, but because they're doing research on how this thing's going to work on their business. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a lot of it. It's not even, it's understanding that the importance of doing things like this is there. As entrepreneurs, we have to roll, I guess, with the punches, right? And we have to be, smart about how we go about it. If we can't figure out how to make it work or how to, plug it into the business, all right, cool. Who not how? Who can we reach out to that's already, playing in this space? Can we create partnerships that, perhaps, help us understand this a little more? The fact that companies are already doing this, and that's just one example, right? But I mean, I don't think Amazon. Think the way they're reclassifying your shopping habits.
Oh yeah,
like shit, it's all over the place.
But the thing about that I think people really need to understand is that it's inconceivable to understand what big business is doing right now with AI that we don't even know.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's really what business is all about, right? Like, how do I provide a better quality product, better customer service at a cheaper price to more and more people? I mean, you nail that and you've dominated the market. You know what I mean? There is no competition.
Yeah.
And there's things in the works right now that you can't even imagine that are going to be done with AI. And we'll find out when they roll out those products. But I bet they're beta testing all kinds of things right now.
This is something kind of fun that I've done with AI ChatGPT. So I mean, I was an early adopter. I hopped in as soon as I heard the website early on, and
you're trying to become friends with it.
Yeah,
like hang out with me?
Exactly. Every time I ask for something, I say please and thank you.
Don't kill me if you take over.
Yes, I'll be your minion when you take over the world. But you know what? Like, I don't know. Like, I've seen too many movies, man. No, but it's. So one thing that I started doing, and I brought it back to my own, personal habits, right? So I've always been not always, but years ago, I read Think and Grow Rich, right? The Power of the Mastermind. And then you create this board of directors in your head and you start putting, plugging characters in. And if you read the one of the greatest books out there ever, Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill, you know what I'm talking about, right? But you start to create imagery of the people that would be your personal advisors, right? So of course, one of them is Tony Stark. Like in my mental, like, okay, what would Tony Stark do? What would Iron Man? I don't know. You pick your characters, right?
No, that's definitely relevant.
It becomes, and it may sound silly, right? But it becomes a matter of perspective, right? So this is something that I was doing on my own, and then whenever I have an issue, like one of my critical thinking processes is going back to this table of people, and historical characters, some personal characters as well, people that I've known through my life, and asking the question, what would they do? What would they do, right? So I started playing around with ChatGPT, and then in the voice of X person or X character, Marcus Aurelius is another one, right? Like what piece of advice would Marcus Aurelius, or how would he go about solving this issue? If and I get detailed on the description. So I type this description based off of the character or the person that I think that I would like an answer from. Yeah, and it's. It's incredible how much it sounds like that character. Let me say that. So let me finish the thought. So it'll spit out, some type of response, right? And I'll do it again with another one, somebody else is sitting at my mental table. And then next thing you know, you have multiple perspectives, but it's kind of like going out of your brain and doing this exercise. And this thing is pulling data from books and scriptures and just searches and, everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's going to be a more substantial response than whatever I can imagine that person would sound like based on the amount of context that I have on them, right? So what it does, it really sparks my thinking juices when it comes to creative thinking and critical thinking. Right now, I have different perspectives. That's how I love using AI. And it's one of my favorite ways.
I'm gonna go down a rabbit hole. So buckle up. Okay, so what you just said is very profound, and that's because Thomas Edison, Einstein, they all use those. Call it workshop. You go into your imagination,
mental workshop.
Yeah, and you have this board, so to speak, board of directors, and you pose this challenging question, and there's something very deep and profound about that. And I'm not going to even attempt to really explain it because I'll just botch it. But what I do know is that it works. It's like electricity. There's a theory of electricity. Nobody really understands how it works. Google it. And so we don't say, well, I can't turn on the lights because I don't really know how electricity works. No, that's BS. You go flip the switch. You don't need to know how it works. You just need to know it works.
You can flip the switch.
Yeah. And so here's the problem that I see. First and foremost, I didn't know I didn't think of that as an application. You never shared that with me. So thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
That, you can basically get that information quicker.
Yeah.
Now, here's the other thing. Remember when we were kids, we didn't have cell phones, even before beepers. A lot of people don't even know what the hell that is, right?
Beeper?
Beepers
Beepers used to go like beep, beep.
Yeah.
Beep,
Somebody
beep.
call your beeper and you're all important, because you can see the number call. Yeah. Okay, so.
Then you had to find a payphone to call that person back.
Yes. Now.
You had a beeper because you couldn't afford a cell phone.
Hey, we had a car phone when I was a kid. That was dope. So.
We're talking about real car phones.
Yeah. It had a cord and everything. Yeah. We weren't allowed to use it because it was like $1 a minute,
It had a cord and everything. Yeah. What's a cord?
Anyways. Where was I? Basically, do you remember your home phone number when you were a kid?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why? Because you had to say it to everybody, and you had to call it yourself, and you had to recall information, right? We don't do that anymore. It's all about instant gratification. How do I get what I want right now?
Yeah.
And the problem with that is, I believe that the majority of the collective is going to start pulling away from actually utilizing not just their brain and neuroplasticity and recall and memory and all those wonderful things. And if you don't use it, you lose it. But the most important thing that we possess, in my opinion, as human beings is consciousness. It's the ability to have that metacognition of imagination. And when you go into the workshop, or whatever you want to call it, and you talk to the board of directors and you pose a problem and you let them sit with it and you go back. Do you ever get answers? Ever? Yeah. And their answers you never would pop into your awareness. Yet you can download that information from the ether, so to speak. There's a source, whatever you want to call it, God, universe, spirit, to each his own.
Yeah.
There is a life force, a source that's omnipresent at all times. And our ability to connect with that is what makes us so different as human beings compared to the rest of the living organisms, I believe. And if you don't use that and you don't polish up that connection, you're going to lose it. And then so I think it's just going to lead to the more numbingness and downplaying humanity, and people can be controlled and whatever. It's not going to bode well if people keep just jumping on with technology and utilizing it and not remembering that we already have higher mental faculties. This is to complement that, not replace it. Because if you do that, that's a problem.
Well, I mean, more important than ever, right? The power of meditation, the power of self-awareness. I mean, the stuff that we keep, going.
The things that advance consciousness.
Exactly. Keeping that in the forefront of things, right? Understanding that everything else is going to be thrown at us, and these are tools. These are great things that we can. It's weapons of mass destruction for the soul, right? If we let it be, I guess.
If we try to use it as a replacement,
instead
of a complement.
Yeah, I mean, I I sit in the middle. I really don't know like whether I love AI or I'm skeptical. I'm skeptical of it, but I don't know if whether to love it or hate it. Right? I don't know enough about it yet. I know how to roll it out in my businesses. I mean, and it's helped me tremendously for the sake of saving time and brainstorming.
Yep.
And I mean, it's
Speed.
just speed. I mean, but I use it in that context. Now the stuff that I see can be done with it. I mean, it's incredible. It's crazy, right? However, I'm not pushing back on the fact that it's already here. It's something that's not going to be, we can't put this in the bag again. Like it's out.
Yeah.
And I mean, finding ways of rolling it out and living with this, type of technology, this type of power out there. I mean, it's crucial, right? It's critical.
Totally.
If you want to stay afloat, like you just got to jump on the ship.
And I'll just say, like, I'm neutral with it. Like, I'm going to utilize it as a tool, not as replacing my consciousness.
Yeah, but you know why?
But let me finish this one thought. Like, if you love it or hate it, think about that. If you love it, what happens when you love something? You cling to it, right? And if you hate something, you resist it. So either way, you're blocking yourself, and the middle ground is just acceptance. This is what is. Love it or hate it. Like, you can label that, or you can just accept, I'm going to utilize this as a tool and a resource.
So, yeah, I agree with that. I mean, that's the best, place to be in, where you're neutral to it. You're almost the observer.
Not resistant, not attached.
It hasn't hit, the society yet, or, it's hard. Because it's not in, like, for example, I don't see it right now in at least on the stuff that I can see. I'm sure there's some stuff going on in terms of policy and all kinds of stuff in the background, right? But it hasn't really hit the lifestyle. It hasn't hindered the lifestyle too much. Once it becomes a threat for lifestyle, I think that's when people are going to start hating it, or some people are going to start loving it.
I think it'll be too little, too late. For example,
well, that's the thing. I mean, that's exactly the thing. I mean, as visionaries, I think we have to, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to say it, we have to, predict or sit there and like create all kinds of conspiracies behind this. It's just like, be aware of the stuff that's going on. Like, shit, dude. I mean, you walk outside my office, you see self-driving cars.
Yeah.
Like, we're living in the Jetsons. If we go across the street, there's this AI robot that's actually security for the complex. It looks like R2-D2. Yeah. Central Phoenix and Osborne.
I got an agent, one of my offices, her
Central
husband,
Landing.
he's one of the founders of this company.
There,
like, they're creating those robots for Walmart and stuff. Like, it's out there. And I'll say,
so it hasn't. Now, what happens when this thing kind of the water spills per se, right? And then the authority becomes overly. You know what I'm saying, right? Like they actually become, they start infringing on people's lifestyles.
Again, it's going to advance faster than our consciousness.
Where traffic rules are changed because of AI vehicles out there and self-driving stuff. I don't know. I feel like right now we're at a stage where it hasn't really had that big massive impact in terms of lifestyle. It's already impacting, don't get me wrong, it's already impacting in a lot of different ways, but I feel like this thing's gonna grow, right? How do you stay on top of it? Just think about that, give that a second.
Here's one solution, and this is super scary. Neuralink. I don't know if anyone's heard of that. Google it. And who do you think is in charge of Neuralink? Now let me tee up what it's about. It's a chip they implant in your brain, and it's designed for you to connect to all the information that's available and recall information instantly instead of having to use memory. And that would be no other than Elon Musk. Like, it's already a thing.
He's an alien.
Yeah, but here's the deal.
Super cool,
like, again, this technology is picking up speed at an exponential pace.
Yeah.
We're not, because we're a massive biology. So I guess what I'm saying is, like, what's your practice to stay mindful, to be aware, not attached, not loving, not hating, not resistant, but just accepting of what is, and how do I utilize this?
What's your practice to stay human and not get caught up in,
I think
in the noise of it? The reality of it all.
Yeah,
I guess.
It's a great question.
Yeah.
You got to go back to exercising those faculties that only we have, that computers don't, at least yet, right? Like intuition, memory, reason, it's important. And for example, I just met this lady several weeks ago. We've had a lot of sit downs. We're going to do some seminars together and so forth. She just published a book. It's on Amazon. It's called quantum living, moving at the speed of life. Like our lives are unfolding and growing so fast. It's like, how do you keep up with this? But let's think about it. In the quantum field of infinite possibilities, like there is no such thing as time or space. Everything is omnipresent. How are you working with that? How are you tapping into that and bring something from the ether into its physical manifestation? Like, the truth of the matter is most people that don't even agree with what I'm saying right now have had an experience of that in some form or fashion at some point in life. Well, how do you master that? How do you go from like, oh, I heard it's possible, to initiating it to the point where you can truly, literally create people, situations, circumstance, events in your favor? Or conversely, on the other side of that, like there's people that so negative, so victim, that they always have something to be negative about and victim too. And they have a hand in co-creating that. They just don't realize it, right? Like, so whether it's positive or negative, if you want to label it that you've manifested or created, you have a hand in this. And so I think this kind of information is so much more relevant right now as technology is elevating at such a rapid pace. Like, how do you be with it? How do you stay present?
Yeah.
I mean, how do you stay true to...
how do you stay human? I mean, it really comes down to that, right? Be a good human. It's one thing that we hear all the time, we say all the time. Right now, I mean, there's a lot going on. I mean, it's easy for people to get overwhelmed. It's easy for us to feel like we're behind the curve on a lot of things, on production, on like the next new thing that comes up. Like how do we retain that mental peace, right? Knowing that there's all this stuff going on around us. And it's really not about ignoring the world, right? We can't, as entrepreneurs, we can't ignore everything that's going on. Why? Because we're not going to progress. We're not going to move forward if we do. We have to adopt it to a degree, somehow, some way. Yet we still have to stay true to our own essence, to who we are as human beings, right?
So that's got to be the primary focus.
Yeah.
And then to realize the technology is a tool for leverage. Yeah. That's it.
So how do we use it? I mean, I don't know. Let's talk about a couple of just practical uses of AI.
Well, here's a real quick one, right? Like, okay, so a lot of people want to be social influencers and YouTubers and things like that. Great. So the number one like rejection I get from people, and when I tell them to do videos, is they say, "Well, I don't know what to make a video on."
Yeah.
Well, pop in a question into AI about like this target demographic. What are their wants, needs, desires, concerns? You know what I mean? Like, what do they want? What do they not want? And like, it'll give you topics to talk about. And chances are, if you get a list of 10 and you ask it the same question differently, you'll get another list of 10. And pretty soon you've got a whole year's worth of content topics.
Let me add something to that. So yes, asking AI is I mean, and of course, like being able to articulate the question is important, right?
100%.
When you do, you can also ask AI to act like X, right?
Yeah, Gio just told me that. I didn't even know that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, I had I think like the first time I did it, I was trying to buy a car. But it was like, act like Rocky Balboa walking into a car dealership.
What the?
And buying I don't know. It's like the first thing that I, like, yeah, I know.
Yeah, let's test this thing out, huh?
Rocky's badass. Like, what? Anyways, so, yo, Paulie, like, you could, like, it was reading it like that. They typed it like that, and I could almost hear it, right?
Yeah.
Like, but it was acting like Rock, and it was like, and telling, Adrian, that, the car was going to be bad. And anyways, like it wrote out the entire paragraph like that. I was like, man, this shit's crazy. It's great. Then I started thinking about, okay, act like an expert businessman who's been in business for the last 50 years. You have extensive knowledge of this and that. We're trying to create a cohesive cultural experience for the team who spends most of our time doing this anyway. Like, but now it's acting like that particular character.
Yeah.
It's almost like the same thing that I do when it comes to the board of directors, right? But it's incredible how you can. I mean, it's a really good way to just compile knowledge from everywhere in the internet, right? But see, everywhere and bring it into this one character. And I mean, I've had that done. Leonardo da Vinci is also on my board of directors. So I've asked, how would that person conceptualize this, right?
I have different boards for different things.
Yeah. So
you know what I mean?
Whatever your question is, right? You can ask the question, but you can also ask it to behave like an expert in this, and that, right?
Well, and here's the genius in what you just said, really, truly, is that a lot of people, brand new to AI, they're going to get on there and ask it a very simple question. It's a one-liner.
Yeah.
What you're talking about is, no, wait a minute. Here's who's really asking the question and why they're asking it.
Like, and I want this answer from this specific person.
Yeah, like you got to focus, narrow down instead of just this general broad, like a shotgun shot, just whatever happens, happens. Whatever I hit. It's like, no, let's aim small, miss small.
Yeah.
Like, what do you really want to know, and why do you want to know it? Like, so it's the quality and depth of the question that you ask it determines the information you get back.
So, I mean, we're in the space of, real estate investments, real estate agents and sales and whatnot, right? I mean, think about marketing campaigns. Think about your next flyer on your next property that you're putting out there, right?
Do you really just blanket the whole population, or do you focus on a niche, a target?
Yeah, exactly. How can you become, branding is a big thing for business. This is honestly, I can't think of a simpler way to figure out how you can go about your branding and brainstorm on stuff that can, actually work.
Yeah,
right?
It'll resonate with your audience.
Yeah, you're an expert branding an expert branding expert. Like, it's twice the expert, bro. Like, you don't know. Don't judge me. I'm thinking
expert squared.
Yes, expert squared on branding. And you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, and take that a step further, right? Think about new systems, new services, new ways to stimulate your existing clientele.
Yes.
How can I re-engage people who haven't engaged with me in months, right?
Well, it's the ethos of it. You have to know your audience, right?
Yeah.
And what does that mean, know your audience? Well, again, knowing what do they want? What do they not want?
Yeah.
And what's the messaging to that specific audience? Like, because if you don't focus and you don't niche down, like you're just appealing to the masses, like that's such a low conversion rate. It takes a lot of energy, a lot of effort, a lot of finances. Instead of, no, I know exactly who this message is for.
Yeah.
And like you're gonna hit your target more often.
Yeah. So one way of that's one, and then another way I like to play with it is by reverse engineering. So if I have an end goal, right? Like I know what I want, or I have an end product or something like that. I'll ask a question, and then I'll ask a second question based off of the answer of that.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'll reverse engineer until I get to a point of starting.
Yep.
But yeah, there's so many different ways, and like honestly, if you sit back and think about it, it's not like that stuff is not that complicated. It's not rocket science. However, it can be absolutely be game changer in the way that we do business.
Well,
right?
here's one good quality about what you're talking about. Like you ask it a question, it gives an answer, and you upgrade your question, right? That causes you to think, critical thinking skills. You know what I mean? Like to sit down and hash that out. But the speed at which you're able to move through asking more elevated questions with the content you get back is far greater than, in my experience, when you're solo, than if it's just brainstorming off somebody else. Yeah. That being said, I've had some wild experiences, even in our masterminds, where, one mind and one mind equals three.
3 minds.
Do you know what I mean? Like there is that synergy. But most people don't have access to that. Or they don't think it's possible, or they think it's woo-woo, so they don't give it a shot.
Yeah.
But like, there's something to be said about that catalyst, that synergy that happens in a mastermind. And so if you don't have that, turn to AI, but also maybe you might want to ask it how you can build one. Because, Napoleon Hill, the power of masterminds, man, it's something incredible. And there's no technology involved in that.
Yeah,
so
100%. Those are just a few thoughts on something that's very relevant, it's very current, and it's something that you absolutely have to jump on if you're an entrepreneur, right? Like,
or get left behind.
Well, one of the two. I mean, pick your lane, I guess. But it's something that's the cat's not gonna go back in the bag.
No,
it's out there, and it's helping a lot of businesses. I mean, it's not like it's, we've all seen Terminator. We're not there yet.
What's that one with Will Smith? iRobot, something like that?
Yeah. iRobot.
Yeah.
Is it? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, they know.
Anyways, so again, like the idea behind this whole conversation, right? It's not like we're AI experts. We're not. We just have a shit ton of questions, just like the rest of you guys. Mm-hmm. We're seeing some stuff. We're playing with this to a degree, which I think is very realistic for operators and modern day entrepreneurs. I mean, we don't have these entire departments to dedicate to AI and brainstorm innovation with, after we don't, right? We just have a bunch of questions. We'll use whatever resources we have out there. The reality, though, is that it's easy to get caught up in that space, in that world where I want AI to do everything, and lose the essence of why we're in business in the first place, right? Are we, trying to help? Are we trying to empower people? Are we trying to, leave, a mark behind, right? I don't think it's something that we can just absolutely leave up to AI to do for us.
Of course not.
However, it's very, very smart, and I think it's the right thing to do, to think about how we can roll some of the efficiencies of AI right now into our businesses. Think about marketing campaigns. Think about outreach.
Yeah.
Think about how to improve your processes and your systems. I mean, it's like that alone will increase the bottom line and everything
Totally.
that you have. So.
Well, as an entrepreneur, we are in business for profit, period. Like it's, unless you're running the Red Cross, but even then, so it's for profit, right? And there's a couple different ways to create profit. One is decrease expenses with the revenue already coming in. The other is to increase revenue, or both, right?
Yeah.
And so like with AI, could you streamline processes? Could you cut what you think it's going to be required to scale, like hire X amount of more employees? What if you cut that number down even marginally and you save on wages? That's one of the biggest line item expenses in business, right?
Yeah.
And so you can have those people get more accomplished with less effort and less time to produce more revenue, less expense, less overhead, more profit. And if you can create more profit, could you then use that to decrease the amount of your product or service?
Yeah.
And then now you're more competitive in the marketplace? Do you know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
you can use these things for your advantage, or you can turn a blind eye and say, it's not for me. Like, it's just a choice.
Yep, 100%. Justin, where can somebody get a hold of you if they want to reach out to you and ask you more great questions?
Absolutely. JustinThorstad.com, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, or my cell phone, 602-348-8534.
Boom. All right, fam, if you guys, this was a little bit of a different topic, but I think it's still very, very relevant, and it plays right into everything else, right? The premise was really why a lot of people out there are afraid of AI, and how do we feel about it? What's our mindset on AI, really? The pros, and we were trying to highlight some of the pros, some of the cons, how we're using AI in our businesses. I hope that helped. If you guys like the podcast, if you like what we do for you guys on a weekly basis, please do us a big, big favor. Share, like, subscribe, send it out to somebody who you think might benefit from listening to us. Comment. Yeah, it's a two-way street, right? It's a two-way communication process. Ask us questions. If you have something that you would like us to bring to the table, let us know. And those are actually my favorite episodes, man, where we come in and we tackle something that
where the audience poses a question. I love those.
Yeah. So with that being said, we're gonna call it a day, and stay focused. You got this. Let's go.